Okay, today is a special episode because today is my birthday episode.
Yes, it is my birthday.
So to celebrate, we're gonna go to the happiest place on earth and hit up Galaxy's Edge. And we're gonna buy a vintage Star Wars Kenner figure at the park. And I know what you're saying. How are you gonna do that? Well, that's why you gotta stay tuned. Welcome back to The Journey, everybody. And if you're new, we are collecting the entire Star Wars Kenner line, starting from 1977 and ending at 1985. And yes, we started from scratch. So if you need to go back and binge watch those episodes, please do. So when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, it was only a matter of time before we got new rides, but not only that, before we got a whole new park devoted to Star Wars. And thus, Galaxy's Edge was born. But what was the history leading up to Galaxy's Edge inside the park? And how did these two juggernauts in Disney and Star Wars come together? I mean, as a retro themed show, I think I'd rather dig into that. So it all started back in 1979 when Disney's The Black Hole movie was supposed to be turned into an interactive ride at Disneyland and was supposed to have been the first interactive ride where riders got to choose the adventure they went on. Sound familiar? The idea was shelved by Disney's Imagineering because of the enormous $50 million budget, which in today's money is simply the catering bill on a Marvel film. So fast forward. The year is 1985. So 6 years would go by, and the success of Star Wars would skyrocket into legendary status. And with movies like Indiana Jones and special effects studio ILM, that would turn George Lucas into a movie-producing juggernaut. I mean, just forget about Howard the Duck.
No more Mr. Nice Duck.
And it was this status as a producer and storyteller that would bring Michael Jackson to George Lucas. So Michael had been approached by Disney Imagineering to do a project that would bring 3D movie making with in-person effects. Ultimately, it would be the first 4D movie interactive experience. Michael and Disney's first call was to the one and only George Lucas. George Lucas brought together a team of filmmakers led by Godfather director Francis Ford Coppola and a score by James Horner, who would also do the Titanic soundtrack later on in his career. It was a story based on an idea from the Imagineering team where a space crew was supposed to deliver a message of love to a planet who has been taken over by an evil queen ruler. Michael Jackson wrote all the songs and obviously performed as well. This was at the height of Michael's popularity, and Captain EO was a smash hit at the Disneyland park. With the combination of story, music, dance, and groundbreaking special effects and 3D filmmaking, it was the most popular attraction at Disneyland, being the must-see attraction when it opened in 1986 at the Kodak Theater in Disneyland, Anaheim. And doesn't Hooter look like Max Rebo? So after the success of Captain EO, Disney approached Lucas to collaborate on the next big thing. And yes, it was Star Tours. So where Star Tours is today used to be Adventure Through Inner Space, where guests would be transported on carts called people movers and shrunk down to a molecular size and into inner space. But going all the way back to 1979, Disney Imagineers wanted to bring back the idea from the black hole where the audience could go on different interactive adventure stories every time they rode the ride. So the idea of being a guest and transported via Star Tour shuttle and getting sucked into the battle between the Empire and the Rebellion was born. But using 3D technology and the use of simulated movement that was invented for the military and NASA space missions, the first pilot for Star Tours is the now retired RX-24 and was voiced by none other than Paul Rubens, who was more famous for his alter ego, Pee Wee Herman.
I meant to do that. A little shortcut. R2, light speed to Endor!
But after a small controversy with Rubens, his character was replaced with C-3PO, and the ride was also revamped to include more stories, better simulation technology, and improved 3D technology. So, that is the small history of how the juggernauts between Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney really came together way back in the beginning. So what about Galaxy's Edge? Well, I gotta go. So almost every year, I've made a pilgrimage to the happiest place on earth, and I have been coming here since I was a kid, and it has always been a major happy memory from my childhood. But I know what you're asking. You're like, Joey, didn't you say you bought a vintage Kenner figure from Galaxy's Edge? Well, this is what happened. So when we got there, we went straight to Galaxy's Edge, and there was nobody in the Disneyland park. It was one of those times after a holiday weekend where everybody just goes home. So all the lines that we had to wait for was like 5. The longest I think was like 20 minutes. And it took us about 5 minutes to get into Smuggler's Run, you know, the ride that has the Millennium Falcon in it.
Just a private Millennium Falcon experience for the birthday boy.
Pilot and left. I was just about to say that. Pilot on the right. Pull back on the stick to fly up and push forward to fly down.
So I have never been on the Rise of the Resistance ride yet. So for you guys who don't know, you have to get on the Disneyland app and you have to get into a queue. I mean, if you've ever been on a pre-order or a concert ticket list where you have to refresh, and then boom, hit the button to get your slot, that's exactly what it is. So we were doing that and we happened to get one for 4 p.m. That was our time to ride. So we went all through the park, riding all kinds of rides. 4 p.m. came, we still had to wait. The ride kept shutting down. 7 p.m. came, not yet. So it was getting close to 9 p.m. and the ride was gonna close. So we get into the line, and as soon as we almost get to the entrance, the ride shuts down for the night and it's not gonna be open again. But the Disneyland people did tell us that that could happen, but it just sucks that we couldn't get on because I always wanted to ride that ride, and on my birthday especially. But they gave us free passes to the Spider-Man ride, which had just opened, and that's kind of cool. So if you haven't gone, go check it out. It's a 3D or a 4D interactive thing. You gotta check that out. But the whole time at Disneyland, I was brokering a deal to buy a General Lando Calrissian. So I've been looking to buy the General Lando Calrissian for such a long time because I think it's a really good looking figure. I mean, with his Rebel General paint and mold, this figure comes with his very expensive black Palace Blaster and a cut cape that goes around his body in a very regal fashion, I might add. And I think it's very fitting for Lando. But this figure is really hard to keep in near mint condition as the paint from his boots, hands, and hair are always scuffed, and the black Palace Blasters are notorious for bending, fracturing, and breaking at the muzzle. His cape is often frayed at the edges, making this figure more on the expensive side for the last 17. So we found a deal or no deal sale going on Facebook, and this was my first deal or no deal sale. So that's when a seller places items up for sale but does not list a price. So instead, buyers have to type in an offer in the comments, and it's up to the seller to either refuse the offer or accept the offer. So this Lando came with not only a beautiful figure and accessories, but it came with the card back. I mean, we don't collect those, but I know that we can either trade it, sell it, or maybe we can just display it because it does look nice. And it comes with an awesome coin. And we've never bought a figure that has come with the coin yet. So after an initial offer of $300, we were denied, but after another offer of $325, the seller accepted and we made a shipping deal on top of that. So it was a very happy birthday and I bought myself a present of my own. Okay, here's why it's so heavy. Because it's inside an acrylic case. Oh, here it is. Let's make sure nothing else is in there. And nope, nothing's in the bag. There might be, yep. There's our guy, Lando Calrissian. Not only do I think that every Lando figure is a great looking figure, but I think that the Lando, as the movie character, I thought he was a really well put together character, played by Billy D. Williams. Just gave so much depth to that character, gave so much suaveness, and you can really tell that this guy would truly hang out with Han Solo and teach Han Solo a thing or two about a thing or two. I really do think that Han looked up to Lando and learned a lot from Lando, and I'm glad we kind of caught a glimpse of that in Solo. Even though it wasn't a very popular movie, I still liked it because it kind of gave us a backstory between Lando and Han. And I did read the novels, but I really enjoy it when it becomes canon into a movie. I'm new to acrylics, so I really don't know the tricks of these guys. Usually I've seen these characters with, you know, the mustache rubbed off, the eyebrows rubbed off, but this Lando has got a great head of lettuce. I can't see any paint rub. Maybe there's a slight amount on the top where the mold is cast, but that's about it. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little bit of tiny bit of head rub where the mold would be cast right there. But his cape looks really great. The other capes that don't fit characters, the Jawa and Prune Face. But this cape, you can tell Lando went and got it tailored and fitted because Lando has to be peacocking when he walks into a room. At the Black Palace blaster that comes with Lando, you want to make sure that what you're buying isn't reproduction. And this one does look and it does feel 1985. Usually you get stresses along the barrel tip right there where it bends or even breaks. So here is the Lando Calrissian coin, and I like to read these. So let's see what this one says. Lando Calrissian, Rebel General. The administrator of Cloud City, Lando flies the Millennium Falcon to victory as rebels destroy the Death Star. May the Force be with you. And I'll tell you the truth, everybody. When I first held these coins, they almost feel like they're made out of cheap plastic with aluminum covering on them. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the coin on his head is a little bit, I don't know if that's dirt or if that's some sort of gunk. I'm gonna try to clean that off. But other than that, it's a great looking coin. So there's our hero, Lando Calrissian.
And let's also check off the General Lando figure and place down that we have the coin as well. So we don't collect the card backs, but we're gonna hold on to it for either display, you know, like I said, for trade or for sell. And let's also place Lando in our case from Collector Displays, and a link to their website is down there in the description. So yeah, thank you all for joining me on this episode to celebrate my birthday. I mean, I always have a blast at Disneyland, and I also have a blast with you guys here on this journey. And we also got to dive down into the history of how Disney and Lucasfilm came together way back in the early 80s. And also let me know in the chat if you knew about that story. So if you found this episode enjoyable, hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can follow the journey. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I'll see you next time. If you're new to the channel, check out the welcome video, or just check out the next episode. And please subscribe if you want to follow the journey. And remember, there is no shame in being a Padawan.